Hey everyone, Fix It Scotty here, and I know it has been a couple months since I've put out my last video, and one of the reasons for that is because I had a few major setbacks in my garage. The biggest one being the power went out, and that was quite a repair. And so the purpose of this video is to kind of show you some of those setbacks that I encountered, how I overcame them, as well as show some of the upgrades I made during that time. The most obvious one being, as you can see, I have a new lift installed in the garage. So I'll talk about some of the upgrades, and then we'll also get into some of the upcoming videos I have on the Volkswagen bus, both in terms of the EV conversion and the restoration. So stay tuned for that update. Okay, so to address the biggest issue that I had, which was really a bummer, was that my power went out in my garage. And what happened was, it's not the wiring inside of the garage that was a problem, it was the wiring going into the garage. So my main feed coming up here and feeding this sub panel from my main panel. Now what was happening is, in the house, my main panel, the 60 amp breaker that's driving this sub panel kept tripping. And you know what that means, it's probably a short. So like I said, that it was a short was the problem. And one thing I probably didn't mention was, I think in one of my videos I mentioned that we had asphalt work done right after we finished the garage. Any time you see the dark asphalt here, that's the newest stuff that we had put in over the summer. So you could see we widened the driveway, cut into it, and then just put this new section in. While the crew was working on this new section, and especially right here where you see that patch, my power line, I have an underground power line that runs in a conduit, basically going in right near the ground rod is, into the slab, and that's what feeds that panel that you just saw. That goes underground all the way through to the to where that driveway extension ends. So basically when they were pouring, or when they were doing this new set of asphalt, the electrical cable is basically right here. My conduit is basically entirely covered by the asphalt. When the crew was digging, especially right in here, they informed me that they hit my conduit. So I think they had to go deeper than they wanted to, or I don't know what, but they hit my conduit. And they informed me that they hit it with the Bobcat. So I ran out here, inspected the damage. There was a little bit of damage to the conduit underneath there, just a 1 1/4 inch gray PVC conduit. And this is the wire that was in there. It's a 6'3", kind of a stiff 6'3" bundle. See, there are your red, black, and white conductors with a bare ground, and it's in this sheathing. And that was the wire that fed my garage. They had cracked the conduit, and they cracked a little bit, and you can see this is actually where it was shorting out. So this area here that's taped up was what was basically under that little patch right there. And the problem is it's in conduit, so it's dry, it's fairly dry, but when they cracked the conduit, and they also abraded the wire, but barely, not enough for me to chop it up and start putting junctions in it, but they abraded the wire barely. So I put a little silicone, tried to tape it all up, and then I tried to repair the conduit. I basically stripped a layer off the top of the conduit, like just to kind of took the roof off of it basically, and did my repair of the wire, and then kind of recapped that roof with some Flex Seal tape. Obviously that wasn't sufficient, because 6 months later, it's now, water's intruding into the conduit. It's obviously dirty water that's soaking the wire, and if any of the hots are exposed to that soaking, it's gonna start shorting out and burning. So kind of my fault. What I should have done is not tried to repair it as quick as I could and kind of go with that and say, oh, okay, hopefully it's good. I should have just sent the crew home and just stopped everything and just reevaluated it. But I didn't, so that's on me. So 6 months later, it starts shorting out. I cut open this area here. Basically, I took my grinder with a big 6-inch masonry wheel, made a nice clean a box cut out, took the asphalt out, and then dug it all out to where I can get to that area that was previously damaged. Once I realized that it was damaged there, but I also was concerned that there was damage that I couldn't see. So one thing I didn't want to do is just fix it and then call that good, because then who knows, 6 months later another short developed. So I had no confidence in that wire anymore, so I decided what I was going to do is pull a whole new wire. So what I did was, and by the way I troubleshooted the short was basically to break it down from the panel, both sides, and do ohm testing. And I saw that there was the short. So if you look straight down the line here, it comes under the asphalt, it comes out about right here, and then curves around, and then goes into, the conduit goes up out of the ground and then into the thing. So I dug all this out and, did all that, and then cut the wire right there. So we had a straight run right to the garage. So similarly, I had to cut a patch out here of the asphalt, dug all that out down to where I got to the conduit down there, cut that out in the wire, in the old wire. So now I had a straight shot, as straight as I could, going all the way over to there by the garden. So I hooked the new wire onto the old wire using the ground, and I was able to pull it through. Now, because of my concern about other issues in the wire, or even other issues in the conduit itself. So the conduit itself, I didn't have as much confidence in. So I was able to look at that section right there, and I was able to pull the new wire all the way through, so the conduit's still there, it's still good, but it could be leaking in other places. So what do? My options were limited, right? I could pay $5,000-$6,000 for directional boring to basically bore out through here and have a commercial company put a new polyethylene conduit in there to run my new wire. That would have cost thousands of dollars. I could have retrenched it and totally did it from scratch, which means I'd have to cut all the way out here and retrench all the way through gardens all around there and into some other areas that I'd have to lift up, the sidewalk and other stuff. Nightmare, so all that I didn't want to do. What I decided to do was pull back through this material here, this wire right here. This is a same 6'3" wire, but it's in a direct burial PVC jacket, which is meant for direct burial or water in moist areas. So I thought, well, if the conduit's compromised in areas I'm not sure about that I haven't fixed, I'll at least just pull this direct burial wire through it, so that if it is compromised, it's fine, because that can live in water or wet areas. So that's exactly what I did. Pulled it all the way through. Then I had to repair the asphalt. So I'll explain kind of how I did it on this section right here, since it's the easiest one to see. So to repair the asphalt, the first thing I did was, after I repaired the conduit and pulled the new wire through, I bed everything in a little bit of sand. I poured a couple bags of sand in there, and then of course I backfilled it with dirt and with the gravel base and tamped it really well. I bought a few bags of this product. It's called US Cold Patch from Sackcrete, and it's a good quality asphalt repair. It's probably twice as expensive as some of the stuff I've found at other big box stores. And I'm also going to do that other patch as well, but I'm just going to show you on this smaller one here. So we've got about 3 inches from the top. Everything's tamped in. I've got a metal rake, a 10-inch tamper, a piece of plywood or OSB, I think it is, and a propane garden torch that I bought from Harbor Freight. So those are the tools that I will be using. So I poured in the cold patch, about, each bag was about 2 inches, raked it nice and then tamped it. At about 2 inches, you'll compact it down to about 1 inch. So I get it even, pour in another bag, rake it nice and flat, then tamp it down again. And I keep doing that until I get it level to the surface. Okay, so fast forward to this point, I've got about 3.5 bags of that stuff in there in this little patch here, and I think I'm pretty much to the top. I finished tamping everything in, checking to make sure that I've got all the material in and it's level. I'll heat it up a little bit with the torch and tamp it a little bit. One thing that was a problem was when you heat it up with the torch and tamp it, the material will stick to the tamper. So to fix that, you could put a little cooking spray on the tamper, and I figured that out later, and that helps out. So then what I do is clear the area, I heat it up again, put the board over it, and this time I'll drive over it with the car. And this is basically just my way of doing a steamroller without owning a steamroller. So then I let it sit a couple days. Now you can see I put cooking spray on the tamper and I heat it up really good. Now this final tamping is really just to cure everything. So there it is, all new wire. It's been working great for the past weeks. I'm very confident with it that now that I have all new wire, it's good to go. Notice that still have this wall opened up. The reason I did that is because I cut this open so that and pulled out the old wire just so I could see the condition it was in within here, more when I was initially troubleshooting it. But that whole process right there was probably 3 or 4 weekends, because if you think about it, I mean, there was one weekend of just nothing but troubleshooting and digging and cutting things in, and probably 2 weekends of that, and determining what I'm going to do, calling other companies to see if they can help me, and then realizing they can't, as usual, and knowing that I have to do it on my own. So buying the new wire and all that stuff, and then running it was another couple weekends. So that took me out for about a month. That's a huge bummer, but I'm glad I got it fixed, minus just, the driveway's fixed, the garden is fixed, everything's fixed. The only thing I have to do to finalize this is kind of repatch this piece of drywall, and we're good to go. Now, to give a silver lining on this, one of the problems I also had in this garage was a lack of internet. I don't know if you could see up by the garage door opener, but that white device there is called a wireless extender. So that wireless extender just was not cutting it. I still was not able to get any kind of reliable internet in this garage. So I thought, as I'm doing the power, repairing the power, let me try to address the fact that I have serious internet problems in the garage as well. So how do you solve an internet access problem or a Wi-Fi problem when your garage is here and your house is way over here? There's about over 100 feet of space in between those two walls. Well, that extender device that I showed you initially, what I did and the way it's really designed for is your main router and wireless that's inside the house. If the internet modem, for example, and the main wireless router attached to that modem that do your Wi-Fi for the house, say it's in the front of the house. Well, the idea is you put that extender, you plug it in back here, like in this kitchen, and an outlet back here, and it could pull the Wi-Fi signal from the main Wi-Fi, rebroadcast it, and hopefully that makes it out to the garage. So that's initially what I tried. No dice. I got basically the same weak signal from my new, wireless extender that my main Wi-Fi was putting out. So it did not work to push the signal out. So then I decided, well, let me try something here. If you recall from inside the garage, where it's plugged in at, it's kind of on the top of this wall here, just on the inside of this wall up here. So I thought, well, maybe that could pick up the Wi-Fi signal from my house better, being way up there and in the front of the garage. So instead of picking it up, the Wi-Fi signal, and pushing it or rebroadcasting out to the garage, I'm simply hopefully leveraging that extender to grab the Wi-Fi signal better than my laptop would or my phone would, and then rebroadcast that as a new network. Well, that worked great in terms of the network had full wireless strength, being that the extender is inside the garage, but I kept having internet drops, and that's because the device kept, losing the signal of the house, right? So same thing, same problem basically. So finally, the answer to my problem was, while I was pulling that new power cable through, I went ahead and bought a direct burial Cat 6 network wire. And again, made for direct burial, made for water purposes or moist environments. And I actually built this casing here, and I had this casing, this custom box casing here, and I had the big spool of that direct burial power wire on it. I also had a spool of this Cat 6 network cable on it as well. So basically I taped it to get pulled with it, and it got pulled with the power wire. So now I have a hard wire going all the way into my house, and I plugged it directly into the router. So once I ran my new power cable, I also ran the new network cable into the panel. Notice that it goes around and up through this plastic grommet. And then what I did was I fished it all the way up the wall into my attic, drilled a hole, and then put it up through the sill, and went all the way over the attic and then all the way down into there. So that's a full hard wired internet connection all the way in. Now notice it's plugged into my wireless extender. Most of these wireless extender devices, even this cheap $35 one, have two modes on them. They have a Wi-Fi extender mode and what's called an access point mode. Wi-Fi extender is what I was using, where it picks up the Wi-Fi signal and just rebroadcasts it as a new wireless network. With the access point mode, it takes whatever signal it's plugged into it, which is my internet signal from my main router inside, and just rebroadcasts that. So that fixed all my problems. I don't have internet dropouts because it's hardwired, and my access point is a wireless signal, and since it's right here in the garage, I don't have any problems with my phone or laptop connecting, and I have full strength on the Wi-Fi signal and full strength on the internet. Now, in addition to upgrading my internet to the garage, I also obviously upgraded to a lift. I bought a used 4-post lift off of Facebook Marketplace. These are very rare to come up on the used marketplace because they're very large and hard to move and install and uninstall. And so most people, I imagine, they just sell it with the house, like a hot tub or something like that. But this seller was motivated they were selling the house, they needed to get rid of it, and apparently the buyer didn't want it. So they were motivated to sell it. Now the catch was I got it for a great deal, but I had to do the entire disassembly, removal, getting it to my house. So that was a lot of work. I didn't film any of it because it was not worth filming. I get this thing home. It is a cheap, kind of generic Chinese branded lift. I think this goes under the brand Tuxedo. It is considered a 4-ton lift, 8,000 pound, I guess, and it is not an extended lift because I don't really need it more height or anything like that. This will go almost up to the top setting with the van on it and up to the ceiling, which means I can get a normal sized car under it. I can't quite get my SUV, that Highlander, under it, but I can get another car under it. But when we had hail recently, I had to get 3 cars in this garage. I pushed the bus all the way forward into my workshop here. I put the Volt on the lift, pulled that all the way up, and then I was able to park my wife's SUV under it. So I was able to get 3 cars in here during a hailstorm. Luckily, that hailstorm didn't end up damaging anything, but it was good as an insurance to be able to do that. That's the whole purpose of this lift, and also to get to lift up the car so I could work under it much more easily as I'm getting kind of older. Like I said, this is a bottom of the barrel generic Chinese manufacturer. I think it's made by Duro Manufacturing. I think this is branded as under the brand name Tuxedo. It's about 10 years old, but the previous owners didn't really use it much, and I could tell they didn't. What this guy did was he put it in the third bay of a 3-car garage, and he put a car up on it and another car below it, and then it was basically sat there like that for many years. He just used it as a kind of a showroom. He didn't really operate it much. So I get it home, and I use it for about a month, and then all of a sudden I start having problems with the motor. The capacitor kept blowing on it. So what I'm going to do is a separate video that's going to come up on how I troubleshooted and diagnosed the issue with this and how I end up fixing it. So that's coming up next. But that's the new lift. I also did bolt it to the floor once I got it all plumbed. I mean, the important thing on these lifts to make sure you do, especially on a 4-post lift, is make sure the posts are plumbed, your cables and your lock mechanisms are all kind of leveled to each other, so they all kind of come up and level at the same time, and that your cables are routed in all the different pulleys properly. That's the biggest thing when you're installing one of these. It actually didn't mind the fact that I got a used one, because if I got a new one in the box, I wouldn't have seen how it went together, and so I'm kind of glad I bought a used one. Not to mention that these are so big and heavy that you can't get liftgate service even on a new one. You would still have to rent a trailer, you would still have to drive to a pickup location to have them load it, and you'd still have to trailer it to your house yourself anyway. So getting a used one is actually not too much more work than buying a brand new one. Another upgrade, and this doesn't seem like a big deal, but it actually, I think, will be a big deal, is having a nice big garage fan. I think this is an 18-inch fan. It's a Ken Brown fan. It has a full aluminum blade on it, and it's a wall mount fan, all powder coated and steel housings. It looks like it's pretty well made. I'll have a link in the description to this product. It's not cheap either. It does have a switch up here. You can adjust whether it's oscillating, or there's 3 speeds on it, and that's why I bought it, because I wanted a good oscillating fan with a good head on it that can push the amount of air from the front of my garage out through the garage. And so for the winter, I would put it on the low setting and use it to kind of push that heat from that diesel heater around. But in the summer, obviously, I'll just use it to cool myself. But just the fact that it's a fan. So that was a big upgrade. The other thing I've been trying to do is deal with the echoing around here. So I've been putting some of this stuff on the corners, like that. I've been putting some decorative little soundproofing things, and it helps control the echo. I'm still not done yet. I've got more to put up, but it is helping to control the echo, not just for the videos, but if you think about it, when you're operating a loud grinder or tool, you don't really want a ton of echoing. It just makes it uncomfortable. And the other upgrade, I guess, is just hanging up signs. My wife likes Elvis, so anytime I find a sign somewhere that's cheap, even if it's just goofy, I'll hang up a few little signs. And so, I like that old, some reproduction old signs, but yeah, I'm hoping to get some more of those. As well, I got, I think, a little on-air sign that I can light up. Well, now that I have a good internet signal and I've got my little phone stand here, I can, get it Spotify now, and that's great. But the problem is my phone doesn't have the best speaker on it for broadcasting music. So one of the things I was going to look for is how I can get maybe a Bluetooth speaker for the garage. And I was looking around, and they're very expensive for decent Bluetooth speakers, but a lot of them are made for like beaches and stuff like that, where they're battery operated. They have a big lithium battery in them and things like that. And I don't really need a battery. But then I looked and I saw that I already had this device here, which is simply what do you call this? A speaker bar or whatever for, your TV. And I had this sitting under the TV, and I never really used it. We were going to use it like, if we have movies and stuff like that. It's just an LG, little speaker bar for a TV. And it plugs into the wall and it has no batteries, and I already owned it, so I figured, great. Well, the thing is a lot of these newer speaker bars, sound bars, whatever they call them, are Bluetooth, and this one is too. So when I turn it on, and by the way, they have a remote, so I just simply turn it on. It's got a volume on it. So now when I want to play some tunes, I can simply play it. Now I have a speaker, and it's not the best sounding one, but at least can broadcast it throughout the garage. It's in the middle here, and it sounds pretty good, and good enough for me while I'm working in the garage. I got some tunes to listen to. One of the biggest next steps I want to take is getting the complete drivetrain done in the bus this spring, and it's going to happen. Now, what I'm waiting on, everything hinges on me getting back this rebuilt transmission that has been at the shop for almost a year. So obviously I'm not happy about that. I've been calling them all the time. They've been giving me the runaround, but I hope to get it in the next couple weeks or so. They said it's going to be done. Okay, now for this drivetrain, once I get the transmission, just to give you a quick overview of what this is going to look like. I've got the motor. This is net gain warp 9 motor. This has the same shaft as the new AC induction net gain hyperdrive setup. So if I ever want to upgrade to the hyperdrive, I've got the same shaft on it. Therefore, all these pieces and even this, the 9-inch the rear motor mount and everything should fit it. So I can always upgrade this later. That's why I went with that warp 9 motor rather than, saving up another $5,500 to $6,000 for the new AC induction motor setup. Now with that, I've got the stock mustache bar, which would mount under, and this would just help hold up and cradle the rear of the motor. So this is the rear of the motor right here. So I'll have to do some fabrication work to make that fit correctly once I mount this to the bus. So we've got the rear mounting set up with this heavy-duty bolt-on strap that I bought, which is made for these type of motors. And so there's the rear setup. Now, this front part, how it's going to mount to you got this bigger keyway shaft that I need to clean up. And how that's going to mount is I've got some EV West products. EV West is a company in California that kind of specializes in Volkswagen EV conversions, or they have some off-the-shelf products for that. So first off, we have an adapter. So notice that this is keyed the same way as the shaft. So this will go onto the shaft here. Notice it doesn't go on there, not just because of the rust, but because it has to be heated up and pressure fitted. So we'll go to do that. Now once we mount that, we've got kind of a Porsche style 5-hole pattern, right? So that's what's going to be coming off the shaft there, is this adapter. Then we'll go with a custom EV West aluminum custom flywheel. Notice it has no ring gears and it's made of aluminum. This is specific for electric vehicles because you don't need a ring gear and you don't need a heavy flywheel like on a gas engine car. So notice it's the same 5-bolt pattern that bolts onto the adapter right here. Now I've got my flywheel, now I need a clutch. Okay, so we've got a Kennedy pressure plate, high performance pressure plate, and a high performance empty clutch disc. So those will mount to the flywheel. We've got these parts here, which are basically just a mount to the transmission. This is a cover plate that EV West makes to cover off the old starter port. So we've got that, and then we've got a new ground strap for the transmission. The other thing EV West makes is an outer transmission adapter that will bolt. How does that work? It bolts onto the motor, and then this will bolt onto the transmission housing. So we have that custom VW transmission adapter for that motor. And again, if I ever upgrade to the AC induction motor, they, I think, use the same bolt pattern. So I've also got the axles, which I redid in a video, gosh, like 2 years ago, I think. So other than being dusty, those are ready to install. So that's the entire drivetrain. Once I get the rebuilt transmission back, we've got the whole drivetrain ready to install, and hopefully maybe I'll get some test batteries and we can actually test it out and get the whole thing moving. I've also been working on bumpers, which also are in bad need of repair and straightening out. The front bumper is in really good shape. Just need to, clean it up, repaint it. The rear bumper, not so much. I've got to do a lot of pounding on it and straightening on it to get this to work. Obviously, I need to sandblast and repaint that. I've also worked on a custom piece here. This will be coming up. I think this is exciting. A little custom modification here is I'm making a custom stinger bar for the front of it. So basically that's going to mount directly onto the bumper bracket here, and it's going to kind of come out right here. And what I also thought I would do is take one of the original, I think I have 2 of these, one of the original bumper brackets, and make some ears for it and actually mount it to the front of the Stinger. So basically the Stinger will become my front tire mount, and that will keep the front tire outside of the car where so I have more space, but also keeps me from having to mount that spare tire bracket to the nose of the car, which, as you know, makes a lot of problems, right? You saw the body work I had to do on the nose. It's not even perfect. It just looks okay now. But all that body work I had to do because of the fact that that spare tire was mounted to the nose there, and it rippled all that sheet metal. So I'll have it now in front on that Stinger pipe, on that bumper bracket, and I think it'll be really nice and it'll look pretty aggressive and cool. The other thing I had was I decided, well, if I only have one color white, that's going to make a really boring car. So I bought another gray single stage urethane color. I think I got like a quart of it or something like that. But I got enough that I think I can do dark gray accents on the car. So for example, that Stinger, I think I'm going to paint it with that dark gray. The trim rings for the headlights, I'm going to paint dark gray. Maybe this grill plate, paint dark gray, maybe a stripe in the bumper, and maybe the hubcaps on the wheel or something like that, just to give a little bit of color variation so everything's not just stark white. So that's all in the works just for the spring, and after all that, we still got more restoration work to do. We've got more window work to do, installation work to do to finish off the car, as well as search out a battery option to get the actual motor and drivetrain running for good. So that is all that's going on, and that's why I've been not really posting videos so much, is because of all the problems and things I've been working on. Things are coming, so stay tuned and stay subscribed, and I really appreciate all the comments and nice words that people have said to me. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.